Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back in. This is the Dynasty Gambit. It is week 4. This is the Going for Two Network. I am your host, Jay. As always, you can find me at FantasyJ77 over there on Twitter. I am joined tonight once again, faithful co-host Brian at VandyGrad92, Steven at Target Shares over there on, yes, it is Twitter still. Us old people are still going to call it Twitter. Guys, how was your week? Steven, how were you doing?
Good. In my home league that I usually talk about, I scored the second highest score in my league's history, about 20-year history. Thank you, Raheem Mostert. Thank you, Keenan Allen. It was fun. It was a good week beating up on my friend Max. Sorry, Max, if you're watching. So.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Brian, how you doing, sir? How was your week?
Oh, it was okay. Overall, I was 5-4, but honestly, the thing I was most impressed by is Steven having a 20-year league, because he must have been like 8 or 10. He started that league.
I was in high school when we started. Yeah. So it's
I saw that when he said 20-year history. I'm like, 20-year history, 19. Let's see. I couldn't figure out how to get to 20 if he's only 19. You know what I mean? It was just really hard to understand the math there. But I digress. Steven, congratulations on a 20-year league. That is phenomenal. Now, is that a redraft or is that a dynasty league?
It's redraft. So we do it every year. Me and my high school buddies, it's our main, our league of record, as usually call it. It's the one that we care about the most. So
right there with you. I've lost count, but I think we're at 23. We
I just figured it out right.
At a lake house in Georgia most years. So good times.
I just figured it out. I just figured out how it is a 20-year league for Steven. Mom and dad got him all hooked when he was still in the womb.
That's why I'm doing this still, I'm a true sicko. Started.
I can tell you, sure, you had no trouble figuring out that I was old enough to be in it for 23 years.
Well, this is your second 23 years, so that's completely understandable. Sorry, Brian, just joking. What's going on, Jamie? Appreciate you dropping by and joining the crew. It is week 4, fellas. Now is the time you really start to assess your team. I think anyway. You really start to assess: are you a contender? Are you a pretender? As it has been the norm, I want to ask: biggest waiver wire ad this week? Start with you, Brian. I'm sorry, start with you, Steven.
Well,
so with me, I feel like I let you down every week. I'm letting you down again. I don't have a big waiver bid. For that home league, I got Josh Downs for free. He got 12 targets, and so it's hard to ignore that volume. I will say I have a propensity for adding wide receivers in like the 50s positional ranking of my bench. And I feel like strategically, that's probably not the right move. You should be going for running backs instead. And so every so often I need to kind of like rein my instincts back and try to get rid of some of these guys and pick running backs instead. I always want these wide receivers that flash with targets, but I feel like strategically probably the wrong move to go.
Yeah, I think that's great for the viewer to hear, because I mean we struggle with the exact same thing that they do at times, and we have to go and listen to our own advice a lot of times. It's like, why did I do that? I told so many people not to do that, but yet I'm still doing it.
I think just taking like every so often, once a week, just looking at your roster cohesively, how many players from each position, and then what your weaknesses are. And then just looking at your bench strategically too is smart. I try to do that myself. Like, okay, maybe Josh Downs was not the right move. I like the targets. If I'm going to pick Downs, then maybe I should cut someone else.
And that's something. And Brian, I'll get to you in just a second, but that's something as a community we have to look at, because yes, Downs did receive a lot of targets, but there's somebody else. Adam Thielen, DJ Shark, they both received a lot of targets last week. The starting quarterback was not in.
Yep.
It was a backup quarterback. The Colts offense doesn't run that way on a norm when Anthony Richardson's there, nor does the Carolina offense run that way when Bryce Young is there. So you see these spike weeks of, the And then, of course, then we get target locked on these players, these wide receivers that were, higher in the drafts, or they've done it in the past, in a different team or whatnot. And that is something we all have to look at and go, well, yes, you have the outlier, right? You have the outlier not only of players, but you also have the outlier weeks for these players that you sit there and go, okay, can I now? If Adam Thielen goes out there and gets another 11 for 14, right? And you got to sit there and think about it for a minute. But if this week he goes out there and he gets, 2 for 6, which is probably more likely than the 11 for 14, right? Brian, who was your pickup this week that you are just dying to tell us about?
Well, first of all, I'm going to play devil's advocate in regards to Josh Downs and maybe not getting those targets. One thing I like about him is they're both rookies, so they're both developing. So maybe who knows what that looks like? It's a developing scheme there. So that's my 2 cents. But in regards to my big pickup player, it's kind of like Steven. I didn't have a huge week on waivers, but big guy I took was Luke Musgrave playing tonight.
That's a 3 for 3 on Musgrave, I think.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got Dawson Kincaid, and I'm kind of swapping back and forth between the two. So, but tonight seems like a pretty good night.
I feel like I would put Musgrave over Kincaid this week. Kincaid, it's sort of been a little disappointment for me. Just what is up with his average depth of target? They're not playing him down the field at all. I don't get it. I mean, hopefully that changes.
In the off season, or preseason, they were talking about playing him in the slot. Is he? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Buffalo games. Is he playing the slot, number one, or is he more in line? I would assume he's more in the slot because that's kind of what he is. But there's so many mouths to feed there with Gabe Davis, with Dawson Knox. Of course, you got the big one with the biggest one in Diggs, and then you've got Khalil Shakir. All these players that you're just going to throw into this slot. I mean, is he playing the slot?
I'm
actually checking
I don't
right now. I'm trying to see what his splits are on the slot snaps. So he has 48 slot snaps according to PFF, and then let's see.
You had it right. It's snot slaps.
Snot snaps. He has 24 wide snaps, and then that's inline 20. So yeah, I would say over 50%.
But again, it's 3 games. Okay, so he's played about 88 downs or plays. So I guess that's not horrible, but I guess he's just not seeing the ball. Maybe he's not that guy.
But one thing I want to say in defense of him, and last week was a complete Diggs game. He had half the yardage, I think. But the other thing is the last 2 games have not been competitive. So I've got a feeling the Dolphins game this weekend probably will be competitive. So I'd really like to look and see what the target tree looks like at that point in time.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, Musgrave was my biggest ad. If you saw my short that I dropped a few days ago, I believe it was Tuesday, right before the waiver wire hit, Musgrave was the guy I said go out and get. Of course, every single league, all 39,000 of them that I am in, must have been watching because I picked him up in all of one of them. It was absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't get a hold of him anywhere. But props to everybody that already had him prior to the past Wednesday with the waiver wire. Props to everybody that was able to get a hold of him. I think he's going to be a stud. The biggest thing with him is missing the touchdown, and that is coming. But he's averaging 8 yards per catch downfield, and just tight end 10 as a rookie, with all but a rookie at quarterback. So give him big props there. Tonight's game, we have the Detroit Lions favored by 1.5 at the Green Bay Packers. Over under is 46. I am labeling this the rookie tight end bowl because of Luke Musgrave, because of Sam Laporta, 2 studs at tight end and are doing big things with their teams. We'll get into the news and notes here in just a second. Jamie I need to cut one player in Dynasty, Troutman or Spiller. Either one.
I'm okay dropping Spiller. I just don't see it there. It's a hard call though, to be perfectly honest with you.
Troutman, but I'm curious what you think, Jay. I know.
Yeah, I was pretty big on the Troutman side of things when I, early in the season when he went to Denver. The problem that I'm having with Troutman is there's nobody. I mean, it's just hard to put him in the lineup. He's not. You're getting zeros if you put Troutman in your lineup.
Yep.
Period. It is what it is. In a dynasty, I'm cutting Troutman. I'm going to hold on to Spiller because, again, he's a running back.
Yep.
And just go, just trust the process that, hey, he may see the field. He may not ever see the field, and that's fine too. Troutman, we know when he sees the field, he doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the difference. Hold on to the young running back and
that's right.
Just hope. Yeah.
Facebook user saying St. Brown gets 3 TDs tonight. Okay.
I hope you're betting the over then. I'm sure that you can make some money off of that. Yeah.
Jamie goes right back at him. Facebook user. Goff is playing on the road. Goff may not get
his home road splits have been rough for Goff. I still think he gets over a touchdown. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not betting the 1.5 passing touchdown line, so clearly I'm not that confident he gets 2. But
yeah, I stay away from the Goff lines as well. What I will say for Goff though on the road is he did win his last big one on the road. Actually, he's won his last 2 big ones on the road. When he won in Green Bay last year, and then when he started the season in Kansas City this year. So, Jamie, let's simmer down with Goff on the road, bro.
But yeah,
news and notes tonight. Brian, hit us with your news and notes for tonight.
Well, Jimmy, go ahead and list who seems to be active at this point for tonight's game, or
go
how
ahead.
do we want to work this? Okay, I've not seen. I'm trying to think. We're about how far in advance? We're less than an hour and a half, so I did not see the official active inactives. But when I last knew, Christian Watson, David Montgomery, and Aaron Jones were all playing. Have y'all seen any different than that?
I saw the actives. I saw the officials for Jones and Watson. I didn't see the official for Montgomery. I don't know if you saw that, Jay.
Yeah, I did see the official for Montgomery. Actually, not Adam, was I believe it was, who was it that put it out there? It may have been Adam Schefter, put out there yesterday that Montgomery was not going to play. In about 30 minutes later, he'd come back and he apologized. He said, "I'm so sorry."
Right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, he is going to play. So I did see, like you said, Watson, Jones, and Montgomery are all active for tonight. I haven't seen the active list. Let me rephrase that. They were all supposed to be playing. I'm looking up the active list right now as Brian goes ahead.
And that's the big news. There is, and y'all may have to help me here. I saw late this afternoon that there's an offensive tackle for the Packers that just got put.
It's David Bakhtiari, and he hasn't played since like 1904.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't mean that. I was surprised he was that was even a news, to be honest. But
got to give the news as we see it, and NBC certainly had it listed. So I watched that tracker. I used to do last year. Did an article called "Bumps and Bruises," which outlined nothing but injury reports, and I love doing that. But my writing this year's basically non-existent, but I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, now, David Montgomery officially, as of, don't even know when this report came out, still listed as questionable, but he did have was limited in practice, but he's listed as questionable. They took, it looks like Aaron Jones. They're still showing as questionable again on this one here, but the report is Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, David Montgomery are all going to play. The sad part is Devontae Campbell out. And who else is that? Elton Jenkins, the guard, is going to be out for Green Bay. Looking at the only ones that are officially out for Detroit, looks like it is Emmanuel Mosley, cornerback, and looks like that's it.
It's tough for the Packers run game on those offensive line issues because they're pretty bad already for their running backs yards before contact. And the Lions are particularly good at that, at stopping opposing running backs from getting yards before contact. So tough sledding potentially for the Packers running backs here.
Well, that kind of gets through tonight's injury report. You want to go ahead and do the injury report for the Sunday and Monday slate there, Brian?
We certainly can. Do you want to? You've got it probably pulled up in front of you, right? Why don't you run it down and then I can give feedback about any additional stuff that but it's very up to date. I just put it together less than 30.
Sounds good. We know Mike Williams out for the season with a torn ACL. Looks like you have on here Cooper Kupp hamstring. The hope is he returns from IR in week 5. It looks like.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. I mean, of course, the thing was in parentheses was
it felt very non-committal. Trying to read the tea leaves is tough, but it felt like he's progressing. Okay.
I want to come back to Cooper Kupp here in a few minutes because I may have a couple other questions about who he affects the most when he does come back, if it's week 5, week 6, whatever. Bryce Young, ankle, full participant in practice after missing week 3, is trending towards playing in week 4. Jimmy G in concussion protocol, was seen practicing Wednesday. Austin Eckler limited in practice. Last night there was a report that Austin Eckler had said he can run full speed in a straight line. His issue right now is, of course, cutting and turning on that ankle. He was wanting to play, of course. Jalen Waddle, concussion. As of Thursday, he's no longer in concussion protocol and is on track to play. Saquon Barkley, after missing week 3, Barkley is expected to practice Thursday ahead of Monday night. So it's a couple extra, an extra day or so for Barkley to get back in there. Hopefully, we do get that on Monday night. We need to see that offense start clicking. Justice Hill did not practice after missing week 3, but he returned to practice today, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Brian? Justice Hill.
Who is this now?
Justice Hill.
Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Justice Hill. Yes, he did return to practice today, so he should be playing this weekend.
Derek Carr out. Looks like he's going to be out with the shoulder with an AC injury to his throwing shoulder. Unknown what the timetable is going to be. He missed practice. Ayuk, Brandon Ayuk should be playing this week, I believe. He returned to a limited practice Wednesday. Practice Thursday, all day today. So we shall see. Debo did not practice Wednesday and Thursday. Allen Robinson did not practice. Here we go with all the did not practices. Tyler Higbee, Irv Smith, Zay Jones, Quez Watkins, Rashad Bateman, and Odell Beckman. Nobody practiced Wednesday and Thursday of those guys. Whoa.
I'm still a Bateman truther. I know there's not many of us left.
Right.
It's like that meme. There are literally dozens of us.
Well, somebody dropped him in a dynasty league. And I actually had an open spot, and I was like, you know what? Why not? I've got an open spot. What am I going to use it for?
Exactly. I think in a dynasty league, absolutely. If he's getting cut, yeah. I mean, but of course, I'm super biased. I really like Rashad Bateman. I think he's talented. Injuries have been tough. It is getting harder and harder to keep the faith with him because he keeps getting hurt. And even when he's not hurt, and the occasion that he's playing when he's healthy, he's not getting a ton of work, which is disappointing. So still believe, but it's dimming a little bit.
Before we get to your notes for news and notes for tonight, quick question, and I'll send it to you first, and then Brian, you just piggyback on him as soon as he's done. Cooper Kupp, he comes excuse me, he comes back week 5, week 6, whichever one. My personal opinion is the odd man out, of course, is going to be Van Jefferson. Tutu Atwell will move to the wide receiver 3 spot. However, when you look at the numbers, Van Jefferson is actually on the field more than Tutu Atwell is currently.
Doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't. But Van Jefferson's on the field like 93 to 96% of the time, where Tutu's in that 70 to 80 range. So my biggest sell this past week was Tutu. And the reason I say that is, we all wanted these weeks last year with him. We got 1 or 2 weeks and they were sporadic. This year, he's averaging like 17 points, fantasy points per week for the first 3 weeks. When Cooper Kupp comes back, it's going to be Cooper Kupp and it's going to be Puka Nacua. They play different positions, but I think they will complement each other very well. So that will move, like I said, Tutu to the wide receiver 3. But I also think it's going to be cutting into Van Jefferson is going to cut into Tutu's time. I just don't see where it's just going to be he's the only wide receiver 3. Out of those guys, who are you selling? And do you agree that it is a Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua?
I do agree. Yeah, I think it's the Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods split that we had before. I think it hurts everybody. Cooper Kupp coming back and just soaking up so many targets lowers the ceiling for Puka a little bit, just because you just can't add someone like that in and not affect your target share. I do think Tutu could still be okay because they still need that deep threat in the offense, because that's neither Kupp or Puka. But you're right. Van Jefferson's going to eat into his snap share a little bit there too. So I feel like it hurts everybody a little bit. I still am not enough to hurt Puka a ton, but just adding in someone that gets that many targets is going to lower the ceiling for everybody else a little bit.
Ryan?
Stephen pinpointed everything exceedingly well, and I agree with you, Jay, that Tutu would be my sell. He on the field, Cooper Kupp and Puka actually look very similar to me in regards to current routes run, but I'm sure that Puka's got more of a wide variety of skill set than Tutu. And Tutu was there last year, which to me, if they loved him, he would have gotten more playing time last year as well. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All righty. What do you got, Steven? What's your news and notes going this week?
So you mentioned it was the rookie tight end bowl. And so for the article that I wrote this week, I talked about Sam Laporta. So I mentioned on last week's show that Sam Laporta was the guy that I added. I cut Njoku, added Laporta this week. Worked out pretty well. I was pretty happy with that. So Laporta is all the way on the middle right of the graph. So on the x-axis, it's targets per route run. And then on the y, it's the route rate. This is all data from PFF. So you can tell Sam Laporta, really high targets per route run. He's 3rd behind only Kelsey and then Jake Ferguson. The one issue for both Laporta and Ferguson, actually, is just their share of routes that they're actually running. So in terms of total tight end routes, Laporta's 18th and Jake Ferguson's even lower. He's 31st. That's the main issue with both of these guys, even worse for Ferguson. I do think with Laporta, he's flashed. He's looked really good. I do think his talent, the Lions will be incentivized to play him more and to let him run more routes on offense. You have to love that stat for him. So far, he's on track to break basically every rookie tight end record for receptions. He's looking really, really good. So yeah, just wanted to talk about my guy, Sam Laporta. Is looking really good so far this season.
Well, just for people that are out there looking at this, explain this graph. What do you want? Where do you want the tight end to be? And where do you not want them to be?
So you can kind of tell a little bit from the names. You have Hawkinson and Kelsey there in the top right. So you want to be in the top right. That would indicate that when you're out there, you're getting a ton of targets for each of the routes that you're running. And the offense that you're on is letting you run a ton of routes. You're not in there blocking. You're not missing a ton of passing opportunities. So I think the best way to look at this is The x-axis is your share of the opportunities that you can get when you're out there, and then the y-axis is how many opportunities you're just getting. So you want to be in the top right. I do think Laporta will move up, and hopefully he doesn't move to the left when he moves up. And I think that's true for some other younger tight ends that are in the bottom right there too. And Luke Musgrave also hits that bottom right section where it's like, okay, we want to get him over the average in his route rate, but his targets per route run pretty good, especially for a rookie tight end. You just don't see that very often, and it's surprising that we got a couple young tight ends this season that are flashing.
Yeah, what's crazy here is well, real quick. Let me go back to what Jamie said or asked earlier. Does he cut Troutman or does he cut Spiller? Well, Troutman is exactly where you don't want him anyway.
Yeah. You don't want to be in the bottom left. I think Donald Parham just quickly.
I was just fixing this. Donald Parham. Not only is he at the bottom left, he's at the bottom.
It's so interesting though, because I actually looked into him because I was like, what is going on with Donald Parham? Because I have Gerald Everett some places, and at least this is true. At least the week before last, I didn't look again this week, but Donald Parham, in terms of where he's getting targeted on the field, he is getting targeted closest to the end zone of any wide receiver or tight end in the league. So they're putting him out there. He's only getting on the field in high leverage opportunities. And so he's getting these like end zone targets when he's out there. And you can just tell if you watch the Chargers, they're just waiting for them to get close to the red zone. And then they're just putting Parham out there. And then he's really big and pretty fast. And it's kind of simple, but so it's just really interesting. He's not earning a lot, but the stuff he is getting are high touchdown opportunities.
Well, that's the thing with him too as well. You've got a guy that big bodied. He's seen for the year like four targets. All four of them he's caught. 3 of them were touchdowns.
Yeah.
The efficiency is so good.
Exactly. It's pretty evident like where they want to use them. They're just like, okay, we can use everyone else everywhere else. We're just going to put Parham when we're in the 20 near the end zone, and then we're going to throw him the ball a couple times.
Yep. All righty. So we got through the players on the injury report tonight. Again, they are David Montgomery, but he is expected to play. Christian Watson is playing. Aaron Jones is playing. Brian, who is one player from each team that you are keeping an eye on tonight?
Well, I mean, we just mentioned his name, and Christian Watson would have to be my player. I'm kind of curious what role he'll play. Later in the day, it came out that they're going to work him back in slowly, so we'll see. I mean, last year he had 7 touchdown receptions. It could be a situation that Jadon Reed plays between the 20s, and then might get Watson a shot or two towards the end zone, since he was their leading receiver last year in the red zone. So kind of curious how that plays out. And my player for the Lions would be Jahmyr Gibbs. Last week with Montgomery out, he had 17 carries for 80 yards. But the bigger surprise to me from a negative perspective is he only had 1 catch for 2 yards. So I would like to see him more involved in the passing game, and I would kind of fully anticipate he will be.
Isn't that what we expected of him? We expected him to be more involved in the passing game than the running game, even if it was his backfield all by himself.
Yeah,
I understand he's a rookie. Don't get me wrong. I get that. But it's funny to me. I say funny. Dan Campbell seems to be a great motivator, but the usage of his players is kind of weird to me. Am I the only one that is the case with? Or?
No, you could ask any Philadelphia Eagles fan right now, being like, "What did they do with DeAndre Swift?
Who?
Why did they draft a guy and not use this guy? What was up with that?"
I mean, only 300 total yards. 300 rushing yards in 2 games. I mean, he's not that good of a rusher. Believe me. Would you rather start Ertz versus San Francisco or Ferguson against New England? Brian, start with you.
Who's Ertz playing again?
Ertz is playing the 49ers.
Oh, goodness. I guess I'll go with Ferguson just I mean, they're both
Mhm.
tough matchups, I think, and to some degree. But I try to stay away from people playing 49ers when I can. So it's a tough choice to make, and that's the reason for the question. So, but I'll go Ferguson.
Agreed there. Yeah, Ferguson. Ertz really came back down to earth last week. And again, as an Eagles fan, I'm convinced that Zach Ertz has 0 yards after the catch in his entire career. You can't convince me otherwise. I've never seen it.
Here's my only question with that is Dak Prescott, right? I would honestly, I'd rather have Josh Dobbs right now, just knowing that Josh Dobbs is actually is competent enough to get it to his colored jersey and not to the opposing jersey. That's number one. The other thing with Ertz, though, is what was it, 2 weeks ago or last week? It was 5 for 5. He may not get very many yards, but in a PPR, it's receptions, and he's getting those. I still would go Ferguson, though. I'm just.
That's why it was so hard to choose, because Ertz is just getting peppered with targets.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
One touchdown to offset 6 catches.
And I think Ferguson leads the league in red zone targets, which is kind of a surprising stat.
He sucks compared to Donald Parham catching the ball.
If Parham was out there for every drive, he might see some more, but he's only out there in select times. But yeah,
that's the other downside to Ferguson there. I hate that this is your choice, Jamie. But Ferguson, lack of a better way of saying it's a timeshare at tight end. Even though Ferguson is the one that's on the field the most, it's still there's 3 of them on the field. So
his route rate is low compared to other tight ends, and his snap rate is low, and so he's just not. But I think when he's on the field, not as extreme as Donald Parham, but when he's on the field, he's getting those end zone opportunities, which is sort of what you want when you're hoping for a tight end at the back end of tight end 1 range.
Sober Money's got a dynasty question for us. Superflex, would y'all trade Kyler for Young? I'm assuming he's meaning Bryce Young. I have Kyler a little higher than Young, so Kyler plus for Young ? And what pick would you add? Here's the problem with trading Kyler right now for me. He's not playing, so he's getting you zeros. And not sure which side of the trade you're on here. I'm assuming you have Kyler here and you're trying to pick up Young. I would absolutely use that as the ploy to not have to add anything to Kyler because he's not on the field. Right now, Bryce Young is injured. So if you want to get rid of Kyler and get him off of your roster, go after Bryce Young. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm not trying to add anything to it because what if Kyler's not going to play? I'm not going to give you more for somebody. What do you guys think, Brian?
Yeah, I'm totally agree. I mean, another factor to look at is Bryce Young's a rookie, so he's got a few years age advantage on him on that as well. So yeah, I don't think anything should be added. I mean, straight up to me.
I think for me, it's a little tougher. I'd rather have Kyler. I don't feel great about it. But Kyler is proven to be really dynamic when he's playing for fantasy football in the sense that you love the rushing and he actually can put up a pretty decent amount of points. To me, I think it depends where you're at in your dynasty life cycle. Are you trying to win this season? Because if you are, Kyler's not helping you at all. So yeah, I would get rid of Kyler and try to get someone who's going to score some points, especially if, you mentioned it, Superflex. If you need that second QB, then sure, go get him. But to me, I think I'd rather have Kyler.
And I guess my question to Pony on that is, will he be able to do and be as dynamic in the run game as he was pre-injury?
Probably not. And he's getting, probably not. He's getting older and after the injury too. That makes it tougher.
So he responds because the way he typed it in was Kyler plus for Young, and he said, "My bad. What I meant is Young plus for Kyler." So, would you add anything to the Young side to go get Kyler?
It sounds like you guys wouldn't. I don't. If I can just get Kyler for Young, then I'm interested in that. If the Kyler managers, I don't think I would add a ton to go get Kyler. If I'm adding anything, it's small.
Same here. And maybe a third.
Small. Yeah.
But I mean, I would start out trying not to add anything. But if the other owner doesn't want to do it, then don't add any more
So
than a
Jamie
third.
just got offered. Somebody just offered him Justin Fields for CJ Stroud, and he declined it because of how bad Fields is playing and his future's up in the air. Would you have made this trade, Stephen? Would you have traded Justin Fields and would you have sent CJ Stroud away?
That's so
Justin
tough.
Fields?
I feel, God, I've been watching a lot of CJ Stroud, just like clips. Man, he looks good. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but boy, he's looking really good, throwing really well with anticipation. There was one particular Tank Dell like dig route where he just anticipated it. He looked off the defender and was able to zing that thing through in between two defenders and get it to Tank Dell. He just looked really good. I guess you're asking me, September 28th, Fields has looked bad before and then come back and played really well. But yeah, I get it. I think I would keep Stroud.
Yep, I agree. I'm keeping Stroud as well. I will add this on CJ Stroud's resume. Just for those of you who didn't know, became the GM of the Texans back in April, like literally like an hour and a half after he got drafted, and made the best draft pick of his life.
Yeah, go get me Tank Dell.
Go get Tank Dell. So all props to CJ Stroud for making his first draft pick of Tank Dell there, and then putting that draft pick to use. Now, yeah, it's CJ Stroud, and it's look what Ryan's is doing over there. Man, I tell you, I had hopes for the Texans, right? But wasn't sure what was going to happen. But with, of course, CJ Stroud was my number one quarterback coming in the class, over Bryce Young. But CJ Stroud is just such a stud, and he's proven it. He doesn't care what the situation is. Put the helmet on, put the pad on. Let's go win a ball game, and he did that last week. So give me CJ Stroud. Whereas Justin Fields, for instance, doesn't look like he wants to win games. He says, I just want to F it ball. I just want to play F it ball. And he goes, 10 burger. A 10 burger for a quarterback. Stop it. Yeah. No, it's CJ Stroud for me. Brian, you got anything on that?
No. Well, it's kind of interesting, the question itself, but I think I'll save mine for a little while.
All right. And Silverberger, just adding a little bit more. He owns Kyler right now, so he would be sending Kyler to get Young. And yeah, I think we've hit that one. I think it's if you are in a win now mode, Kyler's not getting you anything. Go get Bryce Young. Agree 100%. All righty then, Steven, who do you got your eyes on for tonight?
So for the Lions, I'll go with Josh Reynolds. I think he had 80 yards in week 1, 66 yards, and 2 scores in week 2. And then week 3, nothing. Literally nothing. 0 receptions, 0 yards, nothing. And I know he had a groin injury, but he played at least 3 of the quarters and still didn't get any production at all. So I'm kind of curious, like what version of Josh Reynolds we get tonight, what kind of split he gets. And then for the Packers, it's Luke Musgrave. I'm excited to see what he looks like. I think he had 8 targets last week, 6 receptions. And we really just need Jordan Love to hit him when he's open. He missed, I was telling Jay before the show started, there was one particular seam route that he ran. He was wide open, and Love just missed him. And I feel like more people will be talking about Musgrave right now because there's been a couple of those throws throughout the first couple of weeks. I think he could be in the top 6, 7 tight end conversation if he just would have been hit correctly on some of those passes. So curious to see what he does tonight too.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Stephen. So if you were in a league where you really don't have the roster spot to roster 2 tight ends, would you at this point in time take Dalton Kincaid or Luke Musgrave? And would you be willing to drop Kincaid to pick up Musgrave?
It's such a good question. I feel like this is something that I've really been thinking about is when do you start making that transition from your preseason takes to actually looking at production? And I'm sure it depends. It depends on all of this because there's been, even last season, there was tons of fluky stuff that happened in the first 3 weeks that then changed. But I would rather have Musgrave right now than Kincaid.
Mm-hmm.
He's so talented, but I just hope the Bills start using him in a way that I think is more, conducive to his talents.
It's like I said at the very beginning of the show. It's week 4. It's time to start assessing what you are. Are you a contender? Or are you a pretender? I mean, to be honest, there's only 13 weeks, 14 weeks to get into the playoffs for us, depending on how your league is set up.
Yep.
And then, so we've only got another 9 weeks. So we are basically a third of the way through our fantasy season.
Yep.
We don't have time to figure this out anymore. It's time. That time to figure it out is now. And in my opinion, just by usage, just by targets, it's Musgrave.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm guessing in a redraft league as opposed to
I
Dynasty.
still want Kincaid in Dynasty.
You want both of them in Dynasty?
Yeah, I would both. Both would be great, especially in tight end premium, of course. But but redraft. I think just looking at their usage so far, it's very clearly Musgrave based off what's actually happened, and so I think you lean a little bit towards that.
All right, guys, we got to whip through these next couple topics here. We got stock up, stock down. All right, let's go. Where you want to go first, Brian? Here, you want to go with your stock up first?
Yeah. So the question, like I said a minute ago, about CJ Stroud and also Fields is perfect. My stock up is actually CJ Stroud. So, what more needs to be said? Over the last 2 weeks, he's got 4 touchdown passes, 630 or 40 yards, and he's completing a pretty high percentage of his passes. And he's in the league that I'm in. I don't know that it'd be close, but the league that I'm in is through CBS. He's the number 4 quarterback in our format for the year.
Look, he's just set an NFL record too. 210 passes. Am I correct there? Or was it? I'd have to look it up. But he, no interceptions through these first 3 weeks for him. Oh. He's a rookie, by the way. Just hey, PSA. He's still a rookie. No interceptions. Not even the great Peyton Manning. Tom Brady. None of these guys. Dan Marino. None of these guys went 3 weeks in their first 3 starts and did not throw an interception. So,
yeah, I'd be interested in that total. It can't be 210.
I'll look it up
per game.
As Steven talks about his guy that is his stock up right now.
Hard for me to pick anyone other than Devon Achane. I think that's how he wants it pronounced now. Achane. I don't think anyone's stock could possibly rise more in 1 week. I saw a lot of like, he's dynasty running back 51 and now he's my dynasty running back 12. Just wow, that is, I think you were a little too low and now you're maybe slightly too high, but God, massive stock up. I think the Dolphins are much like must-watch TV to me. They're just using such creative ways to weaponize the speed that they have. All 5 of the next-gen stats, top 5 fastest ball carriers are Dolphins so far. Achane, twice. Tyreek twice and Mostert once. So it's just really fun to watch. I feel like this Bills game is going to be a ton of fun too.
Yeah, just to clarify real quick, it's 121.
Regards to back.
Sorry, what was that, Brian? I missed that.
Where do you put him for rest in regards to running backs? Top 20, top 15?
I'm curious what you both think about the split with Mostert. I feel like Mostert's still the lead back, but so I guess I would put Achane in the upper 20s if I had to. But really, I mean, he could destroy that, or he could go, come back down to earth too. Really risky, not risky in the sense, but high variance, I guess is a better way to put it. I don't know exactly. I really have no idea where he's going to land. So I would put him somewhere where
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm mid 20s pretty much. I've got a buddy that's an Achane owner, and he's been blowing smoke ever since that. But the thing that was interesting to me, he's still in with second stringers for one of his long touchdowns. So I don't know. I still think it's Mostert's backfield in a competitive game.
He is 31, and 31-year-old running backs Mostert has a history of injuries too. You have that upside there potentially. Not that we were rooting for injuries. Never. I have Mostert on my team. Hope he does well, but just the reality of it, he could still get hurt too.
Yeah. The other side of that coin is A-Chain could have had, or A-Chan, or however he wants it pronounced. I am sorry, Devon. Since you're watching, I will try to.
Seems like a really nice guy too. So I hope he's watching.
Young kid, if he's watching, props to you. Great freaking game, by the way. But he actually could have had more points because there was another touchdown that he should have scored. That there was a holding call on, and then Mostert got the touchdown.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. Well, I think it is actually going to be his backfield. He will overtake Mostert. He has the better burst. He's got the better. I mean, we saw it. Yes, even with second teamers, Denver was still playing their first team defense. I mean, it was Denver's first team defense. I mean, it's not like it was San Francisco or the Patriots or Dallas's defense, but it was still Denver's first team defense, and just his burst is just that good. When you looked at the overall snap share, it was like 51% Mostert, 43% Achan. He still scored more points and less time on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
To answer your question, Brian, I said 200. It's 121. I think it's right at 121 for CJ Stroud. But here's the thing. Best rookie quarterback across the NFL in 3 weeks, 118.8 QBR as a rookie with a rookie wide receiver, a second-year wide receiver, and a second-year running back.
And that bad offensive line, too.
I was just going to say, and 4 people not on the offensive line. He's only got 2 people on the offensive line, and he's a 118.
You have to love that the Texans coaches are trusting him enough to let him pass that offense as well, because you want your offense to be passing that much. But usually with rookie QBs, you're just not getting that many pass attempts. To have that many attempts and then also not to have interception, both of those are impressive. I think, if anything, the first one to me is even more impressive. They're letting him pass that much.
44 attempts in game 1, 47 in game 2, and then only 30. So I don't know if he got pissed. D'Amico Ryan's off.
They were up by 20.
What?
They had a big win.
Yeah, that's true. Another, the big W. But no, it's CJ Stroud. It's got to be the betting favorite as well. Brian, stock down.
It's the entire Chicago Bears team. And since we're talking fantasy offense, the only player let's be honest. I was looking at odds this morning doing my implied totals, and I looked up, and somehow Chicago at home is a underdog to a team that just gave up 70 points. That's awful.
So just a dumb question. I know in fantasy we can get negative points, but can they do that in the NFL?
Play is DJ Moore, and that's hoping he gets a touchdown, because last week he had 3 catches for 41 yards, I think it was, and he did score, so he salvaged his fantasy day. But the Bears are just pathetic.
I think, to Jamie's point, the running backs, you can hold out a little bit of hope for the running backs, because I thought my stats were broken when I saw that the Broncos. So I look at everything on a per game basis, and I saw that the Broncos were giving up 50 points per game to running backs, 50 fantasy points per game to running backs. I was like, no, that must be broken. That must be the total for the 3 weeks. Nope. That is, because they play the Dolphins.
It's kind of unfair when you give, 50 points to 2 backs in 1 week.
It's still bad, though. It's bad. Yeah. So I personally still, holding out a little bit of hope for Khalil Herbert. I get the hope for Roschon Johnson too. If the Bears are able to take a lead, Herbert's snap share has been a lot better when they're doing better. Roschon's been more of the passing down, trying to catch up back. So it depends on the game script, but running backs, you can hold out a little bit of hope this week against the Broncos, but if they both don't do anything, then yikes.
Steven
is so bad. Through 3 games, neither Johnson or Herbert has broken a total of 100 yards rushing.
Yikes. And Herbert, I think, is talented, especially on the ground. He led the NFL in next gen stats, rushing yards over expected last year. So I think
at least be an flex kind of player. But I think the totals is 23 carries for 91 yards and carries for 80 something. So I mean, they're just using them properly. Neither one of them has more than 10 carries in one game.
That's such a rough number. All right, Steven, who's your stock down this week?
It's the big dog. It's Derrick Henry. He had
take the crown off.
Yeah. And this is a risky one to pick because Derrick Henry has started slow in past seasons, and then he's come back and absolutely smashed too. So maybe it's a little too early, but there's a lot of red flags. I mean, he's losing snaps to Tajay Spears. That offensive line is bad and doesn't seem like it has any hopes of getting better. Plus, he's just getting older too. I mean, last week was really tough if you had Derrick Henry. His stock's down right now. You hope better days are ahead, but it's looked rough, especially last week.
In a redraft, are you willing to go and seek him out, knowing that he's very, very capable of coming back?
Depends on what I have to give up to get him. And so I think probably not. I would assume that the Derrick Henry owner is not panicking probably too much after just 1 week. They probably are going to ask too much that I'm not interested in giving up, is my guess. So he's not someone that I'm targeting just because there are a lot of red flags that are popping up.
Would you be targeting him in Dynasty?
No.
Like age is what it is, right? With Tajay Spears being the incumbent.
You have to be in like super win right now.
Right.
And even then you could get I would hope you get a really good deal on him.
Yeah, say you'd almost assuming you'd have to wait another 2 or 3 weeks and be 6-0, 7-0, getting ready for if you have a trade deadline, but you'd have to be almost undefeated at that point just to even make that decision right there. That way it was 100% comfortable.
I have to be in the top 3 teams easily, and know that my team is winning this year. Then I would think, but even then, if you're in that boat, you probably have better options that you're starting already. So are you that keen to give up your picks or younger players to try to get Henry when he still might not even crack your lineup potentially?
Yeah. Jamie, I'll look at that here in just a second. All right, fellas, we got about 8 minutes or so before we got to get out of here. Let's get to what the people come for. This is the Chrome Dome parlay of the night. Steven, lead us off. What do you got?
So I had fun with this one. So I have Jordan Love under 233.5 passing yards. Amon-Ra over 72.5. Slightly concerned about that one, but yep. Luke Musgrave over 3 receptions. Aaron Jones over 15.5 receiving yards. And then David Montgomery over 50.5 rushing yards. So the thesis, I guess, for this is Packers. I don't trust Jordan Love. He is last in completion percentage over expectation. I think Love has his worst game of the season tonight. So I think the Lions win rather easily. That's my bet. So I would take anything that also has the Lions just like money line. But yeah, so Amon-Ra over. David Montgomery cleans up at the end and garbage time gets enough rushing yards just to end the game. But a couple select Packers get some receiving work, Aaron Jones and Luke Musgrave.
All right, Brian, before you get going, we do have a question. It is not in the chat. It's actually on our Discord over there at Going for Two. The link would be go to goingfor2.com. And at the bottom right corner, there'll be a link for the Discord. It is free. Click on that link. Come join us over the Discord. And we actually have our own channel over on that Discord. And LP Porto has a question for us. Hey, help me out here. Tight end premium 2.0 PPR. Team is middle of the pack. No tight end. Would you trade away T. Higgins for Sam Laporta? Or too much overreaction? I'm worried about T. Higgins' contract situation. I would absolutely, right now, trade away T. Higgins for Sam Laporta to have a tight end that is going to secure that onesie position, especially in a point PPR, a 2-point tight end premium? Absolutely. Brian?
I'm a huge T. Higgins homer, but I would do it in a 2-point premium as well.
For me, I think it depends a little bit on who your other players are. I think there is hope for Higgins. He's getting tons of targets, and those targets are happening down the field if Burrow starts feeling better. But I love Laporta too. So, I do view Laporta as a top 6, top 5 tight end rest of the way. 2-point PPR, 2-point bonus is nice too.
Well, that's the thing. Right now, Laporta is getting the targets, and Higgins is not, right? We don't know if Higgins is going to re-sign or if he goes somewhere else.
Higgins is still getting the targets.
He
had 8 on
quite
Monday
getting
night,
the production you're hoping off of that. And he's getting pretty good air yards too. His air yards, I think, is pretty good. So there's optimism that it improves. But
Laporta is getting 3 points. In this league, Laporta is getting 3 points just for the reception.
Yeah,
whereas Higgins is only getting 1.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
I would lean towards Laporta unless you're like super weak at wide receiver and you already have a dominant tight end or something.
And that was what I was going to say. I think it does depend on what other wide receivers you have, because if Higgins is your 1, then I think that hurts you a little bit, right? But yeah, in a vacuum for me, it is Laporta.
Yep,
just because for the 2-point. So Laporta, LP Porto. Hopefully that answers your question. What is going on, Kyle Sinra in the house? Thank you for joining us. All right, Brian. One more time. Let's get this Chrome Dome parlay of the night that you have.
Well, I had to make the over-under part of it. So on the year on 3.
You're crushing it, yeah.
So I had to do part of that. And I'm going under 46. Don't know why. Just seems like a Thursday night game to me where, see Green Bay doing that much necessarily. I've got golf being road golf, so I'll go 253.5 yards under. And then I totally agree with Steven on the Amon-Ra, and that may be kind of a sketchy part, but 72 seems a little low to me.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, even though I expect Love to not have a great game, somebody's got to catch the ball. And my original prop was actually going to be Christian Watson over 36, but I'm just a little skeptical in terms of usage. So I'll go Jadon Reed over 36 yards receiving.
Yeah, so I went back and forth when I was going to look at DraftKings, whether I was going to look at Underdog, and how I was going to build this prop. So I actually built this prop today on Underdog and submitted it. So this is my actual card that I just submitted. As I was submitting the card, the actual number changed on Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I had to, make sure that was okay and hit submit again. So I have Amon-Ra St. Brown 72.5 because, and y'all, thank you guys for betting the number up on me. But 72.5, I still went higher. Jahmyr Gibbs 58.5 rushing and receiving combined, higher. Sam Laporta 4.5 receptions, higher. Luke Musgrave, this has become a rookie tight end show. Luke Musgrave 3 receptions, I went higher. I also did go ahead and add in Christian Watson to this one. 3.5 receptions. I went higher as well on that. I think he's going to get a little bit of peppering tonight since he's been out for the first 3 weeks. Between him and Musgrave, 6.5, 7 receptions combined. I think that's pretty safe there. I love Brian's under right here. I am no longer betting over unders on these numbers because, oh my God, it is ridiculous. Brian goes 3-0 and I go 0-3. So when Brian he's going over, I'm going over too.
I'm just gonna take Brian's. Yeah, that's
just gonna go with what Brian says. I have one more for you guys. Last question of the night. I want to throw this prop out there. If you can find it for Sunday Night Football, I want to see if we can set the line for this. Are you ready?
Ready.
Sunday Night Football. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, and we know what that means. Taylor Swift will be in the building. So, over under on how many times Sunday Night Football goes from the football field to the booth to go look at Taylor Swift. How many times are we doing it, Brian?
I hope double digits for sure. The game paper looks awful, but we all know Taylor Swift's better than awful. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, how many targets does Kelsey get? And then also add in just other times that they do it. It's like 20. Like it's got.
Yeah, I thought about that this morning. It was a question that they had on, I want to say it was ESPN this morning. And I was like, you know what? That's a great question to add into the Chrome Dome parlay of the night. Because I truly think it's going to be double digits.
Yeah,
I think it's double digits. What the number was that they had?
What was it?
4.
No.
I'm like, they might do that in 4 minutes.
Because then that's assuming that Kelsey doesn't get 4 targets or 4 receptions, honestly. Because every time it happens, they're just going to go right to her. So, yeah, over 4. Yeah, it smashed the over.
Being honest, I actually hope they make it standard on her and then periodically go to the game. I mean,
well, did you see? I saw this today as well. I believe it was released by TMZ. Evidently, Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift have hit it off. They are almost becoming besties or Swifties or whatever they call themselves. They took shots together at a party that Travis was throwing.
So, God, I'm looking forward to the lack of this topic coming up.
I know.
I think we're all tired of it. Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Kyle, yes, Kyle and I did make another trade today. Kyle traded listen to this. It was Jerome Ford and J.K. Dobbins for a 25 second and a 25 third.
Yeah, I'm good with the Ford side there. I mean, depends, I guess, your situation, I suppose. That seems pretty cheap for Ford and Dobbins. I don't know. I'm curious. What side were you on, Jay?
I got Ford and Dobbins.
Yeah. I think I would rather be on that side. It seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, my concern was, of course, Dobbins, with the injury and if he's ever going to play again. I think Kyle, I don't have actually, let me just look real quick at the league itself, because I am currently, if I'm not mistaken, I am 2-1. Let's see. I am 2-1 sitting in third, and Kyle is, he's 1-2 currently, last place of the 12. But there's half the league is 1-2.
Makes sense for Kyle though. If he's, just get the picks. Yeah, if you move on for both of those guys, they're not going to be that useful in 2025.
But I think here's the thing is, I also think it helped Kyle free up a couple roster spots.
Yeah.
He offered the original offer was Ford, and I want to say a 24 second. And I was like, I'd be more comfortable with a 25 second. And he messaged me back, and boom. That's what he messaged me back. And I was like, well, I mean, I like JK. I liked him coming into the year.
God, me too.
And Kyle, freeing up a couple roster spots on Kyle's bench. But yes, like Kyle says right here, the entire league. I mean, we're all within half the league is 2-1, the other half is 1-2. It's crazy. But he says, I'm still clearly.
Yeah, you got to make that. We were talking about that this episode, and you got to make that determination, even despite if you're 1-2, despite what you're looking at. Like, actually look at your team and say, am I contending or am I hoping for future years?
Yep. All right, guys, let's get the hell out of here. The Lions and Packers are fixing to they are taking the field as we speak. Brian, tell the good people where they can find you and what you are working on.
You can always find me on VandyGrad92 on X. And then I do a DFS show on Friday nights for frequency's sake. And then I'm also do their Sunday live show. So got a lot of things going on for sure.
For me, you can find me Target Shares on Twitter, X, and then I write an article each week for Going for Two. It's usually very long with lots of graphs. Hope you like that. But the first bit of it is a love letter to Sam Laporta. So if you're interested, go read that.
Yeah, I was just looking up at the screen. I need that guy's job. So the Green Bay Packers are walking through, the under the stadium there, and there is one guy just standing there pointing. that you realize this is at Green Bay now. He's trying to tell them directions on where to go. Like they've never made this walk before, so we have to direct them. You know, it's he's the traffic cop is there.
Probably could have done that with a sign instead of a human.
I mean, robots are taking over everything else. You got to give somebody something to do, right? Appreciate you, Kyle, for stopping by. You can find me at FantasyJ77 over there on Twitter. You can find me right here every Thursday night. You can find me over with Fantasy and Frames as well, doing a lot of the behind the scenes. We do have our waiver wire show. We do the Sunday morning show as well from 9 a.m. to 12. Join us over there. Again, do not forget, check out all of the other great content right here on the Going for Two Network. You have the Tuesday night shows with the cheat sheet at, I believe that's a 9 o'clock show. You have the guys earlier at, I want to say it's 8 o'clock, and I can't remember the name of that show now. You get the B League at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, doing some underdog bets with you on Wednesday. You have the Armchair Quarterback Wednesday night. You have us right here Thursday nights. You have who else? Is Gladys doing her show tonight? I don't remember if that's tonight or if that's tomorrow night. The cheat sheet is at 9:30. Thank you there so much, Kyle. You've got a Saturday night 5. Speak on It is at 7:30. That's right. 7:30 Tuesday is Speak on It. And then we get the Saturday night 5 going off on Saturday. Of course, there is right here on the Going for Two Network pre-games show going on as well on Sunday. Gladys's show, no particular order, is on Saturday. The reason I picked on Gladys's show there is because as we were coming into the studio, I saw her studio was already set up. And I'm like, yeah, Gladys, on it. I'm not on it. Gladys is on it, though. Her studio is set up 3 days in advance. She's got her stuff on point. Guys, great show once again. I appreciate you. For Steven, for Vandy, for everybody in the chat, thank you so much. We'll see you next Thursday. Yes, I don't even know who the game is next Thursday, but I am ready.
Yeah.